Your yard is now our park. My partner and I purchased the house next door to my best friend. I had lived with him for close to a decade when his kids were babies, so they viewed my house as an extension of theirs and were in and out all day, every day. I have a more flexible schedule than he and his wife, so I have them in the mornings, after school, and on days off of school. I had a pool in my yard, and because my friend's kids were still little, I installed a retractable cover and made sure it was locked so they couldn't open it. My friend's yard had one of those wood fort climbing wall swing set deals and a large sandbox. Throughout the year, we spent most evenings outside, grilling, drinking, and watching the kids play swim whatever. One summer day, I came home from work a little earlier than normal and started to prep for dinner. I heard a knock at my back door, which was odd, since my buddy's kids never knocked. I went to see who it was and discovered a mom and two kids who looked to be maybe 5 to 7 years old. As I opened the door, she informed me that her kids needed to use the bathroom and that I needed to come out and get the cover off my pool. I was confused and asked her to repeat herself, and she said that her kids needed to pee and that they were hot and bored with playing in the sandbox, so I needed to open up my pool. I asked her why she was in my friend's yard and what made her think her kids were welcome to swim in my pool or use my bathroom for that matter. She got really bitchy and told me that she had moved into the house behind us and that she had watched my buddy's kids come over all the time and I opened the pool for them. She insisted that, since I was willing to open my pool for the kids next door, I should also open it for the children who lived behind me. I tried explaining the relationship between my best friend's family and mine. She claimed it didn't matter, that I had known them since birth and pretty much had helped raise them, I just needed to get to know her kids too, and it would be okay. I told her no and closed the door on her. She spent a while knocking and fussing at me through the window and then had her kids pee in a planter on the side of the patio. When I still didn't react, she took her kids back into my friend's yard to play on the swings. I texted him to let him know what was going on, right at the moment he was letting his 300+ pounds worth of newfies out into the yard without noticing the unwelcome visitors. The mom starts shrieking and climbs up into the fort, leaving both kids on the swings. She starts demanding that we put the dogs inside, and how dare my friend let his dogs out into his own yard when her kids are clearly playing there. He tells her to go and calls the police. When the cops arrived, she put on the whole waterworks about how her kids are just looking for friends and my buddy's kids are somehow bullying her kids even though they'd never met. That he invited her over just to let his dogs attack her children, blah blah blah. They eventually move her back onto her own property, then come back later to tell us they warned her about coming back. She lived in that house for almost a year before she and her husband divorced. During that year, I had to replace the lock over the pool cover controls 3 times. Have a fencing company remove a gate at the back of my property that was meant to let the lawn mower through, and eventually pay a security company to come check on the yard anytime we were going to be away for more than a few hours. We found her and her kids in our yards repeatedly, but she'd leave when we got home. What finally resolved the issue was my partner catching her in the pool. She told him she knew the man that owned the house and that he had told her it was okay to swim. He told her he was married to the man that owned the pool and that it's not okay to swim. She apparently had a bad reaction to realizing she was immersing her sons in gay water. We didn't see her again after that. You're going on vacation? Take my kids with you. My boyfriend's cousin, his paternal uncle's daughter, has 4 children. Each of her kids is the personification of the word bratty. The said cousin refuses to discipline them and constantly makes excuses for their behavior. She's also very judgmental of our decision to not have children. She has often made some snide comments towards me, implying that I'm the selfish cunt who is depriving my BF of the joys of raising children. For these reasons, and for her generally entitled behavior, my boyfriend had cut ties with her. However, when he and I visited his parental home 3 days ago for his parents' anniversary celebration, we ran into her again. My boyfriend's dad had urged him to use this occasion to mend bridges with the cousin. So we both tried to make nice and engaged in small talk with her. During our conversation, BF mentioned that we were leaving for Melbourne for vacation in a few days. At this, cousin's eyes lit up. "Oh, that sounds like so much fun," she said. "My husband and I haven't gone anywhere since our honeymoon." She whined some more about how hard it is for them with 4 kids, if only they could afford such luxuries, etc., etc., etc. I could tell where this was going. My boyfriend probably felt sorry for her and, being the kind and generous soul that he is, offered to buy them a weekend in a resort in Mount Abu, a hill station in the Indian state of Rajasthan. Cousin, face scrunched up, that's nice, but why can't you just take us to Melbourne with you? BF, getting a bit annoyed, but still patient. Well, we want to spend some time alone together. Plus we'll be meeting some close friends there. Besides, Mount Abu is a beautiful place. Your kids will love it. Cousin, in the annoying Karen tone. I still don't see why you can't take us to Australia. You're being so selfish, going on this great trip and sticking your family with a cheap weekend getaway. BF's mom cousin's name. He's making a very generous offer. Either take it or leave it. Cousin, wearing the expression that morons wear when they think they've had a bright idea, oh I know. Why don't my husband and I go to Mount Abu and you can take our kids to Melbourne? Me. What? Cousin, it's a great idea. The kids can have fun in Melbourne with you too and my hubby, and I can enjoy a peaceful weekend. This way the kids can actually spend some time with their uncle. You never make time for them. BF. I'm offering for the last time. It's either the weekend in Mount Abu or nothing at all. And why the hell would we ruin our vacation taking care of your kids? Cousin, how can you say that? My kids are so well behaved. You'll have so much fun spending time with them. Besides, my husband and I could really use some quiet time together. You and shy girl turned sassy don't have any responsibilities. You have no idea how hard it is to raise 4 kids. You can afford this trip. I don't see why you won't share with family. BF. One more word, and you're losing my Mount Abu offer. On hearing this, the cousin STFU. We all had dinner together, and she was mercifully quiet. If only her kids had followed her example. You'd think this would be the end of it, but no. We had seriously underestimated her dedication to her Karenness. This morning, cousin showed up at my apartment with the kids in tow. I was shocked to see her of course and asked if something was wrong. She smiled and said, I'm just here to drop the kids off. You're leaving tonight, right? After taking a second to recover from the shock, I asked, did you fall and hit your head on something? We told you we weren't taking your kids with us. What part of that did you not understand? She then tried to convince me that my BF had called her later on and had agreed to take her kids. I knew this was bullshit and called it as such. Cousin became enraged and asked if I was going to break her kid's heart, why would I break our promise, and how BF and I could be so cold. I called my BF, and after telling him what was going on, I turned on the speaker. My boyfriend proceeded to chew her out brutally, telling her he would no longer pay for their weekend getaway and that this is exactly the kind of behavior that had made him cut ties with her. She tried to get a word in, but he wouldn't let her. Cousin took her kids and stormed off. BF and I are having a laugh over this and are still wondering what made her think that this plan would ever work. M feels cheated out of her inheritance. This is more of an entitled family story, but has an M in here, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Little backstory, I came from a highly dysfunctional family and tried to spend as much time away from them as possible. In 3rd grade, 9 to 10 years, I met a set of twins that would become lifelong friends and their family a second to my own. At the head of their family was their grandfather. He was an extremely rough around the edges, no bull giving or taken, my way or the highway kinda guy, and the fact he was half Mexican and half Mescalero Apache didn't help. One of us boys of the house was scared to death of him, and no one wanted to go out of town with him to work. When I was 21, I ended up helping him on a job outside of Fort Worth, and during this time we bonded. I called him Pop and he called me son. A couple of months after we started the Fort Worth job, Pop received a call that his aunt had passed away. We stayed up having a few drinks and he told me stories about her till the rooster crowed. He described her to me in the same manner that us boys would describe him to others. Now this woman would drink a 5th of bourbon and smoke 5 cigars every day till the day she died, but she made it to nearly 100 before she croaked. During the last 20 or so years of her life, the majority of her family had absolutely nothing to do with her, with the exception of one grandson. She had also amassed a nice little spread outside of Waco, having a 100-plus acre ranch, a large farmhouse and a 7-figure bank account. Pop decided that we should attend the funeral. A few days later, we found ourselves in a small funeral parlor in the craptastic town of Waco. The funeral was going as all funerals go, with some people sobbing, others binge drinking, and most of the kids looking bored AF. As Pop and I are sitting quietly, minding our own, we hear this increasingly louder conversation behind us. Enter the cast. M, grandsons Mom EF 1, 2, and 3, entitled Family, Most likely the other daughter's GG, the good grandson. EF1, really? Everything? What do you mean, everything? That's what the lawyer said. EF2, she can't do this to us. Can she? EF3, there has got to be something that we can do about this. It's his fault she died. If he hadn't have provided her with whiskey and cigars all those years, she would still be alive. Don't worry. He's my son, and we'll do whatever I say. We'll sell everything and split it evenly between just the four of us. It was at this point Pops caught on to what was being discussed, as I'm sure everyone else around had, and he, being a man, not to hold his tongue, lost it. It went something like this: "Y'all need to shut eels' asses." He loved to say that. This woman lived to be nearly 100 years old, and you're going to try and say he killed her. Over what? Money? If you cared so much about her, where were y'all the last 20 years of her life? He didn't do it for the money, he did it because it was his grandma and it was the right thing to do. Before M and Fs could regain their composure, GG came up, looked his mom in the eye and said, "Goodbye, Mom. This is the last time any of y'all will see me again," and simply walked out the door. The last I heard about any of it, GG was enjoying his life out on the ranch and refused to have any contact with his immediate family. I spent about another 6 months traveling with Pops, working construction and learning masonry. He passed about 7 to 8 years back. I miss that man. Even if no one reads this, it felt really nice to talk about Pop.